Hello, friends. I hope you're doing good and well. And I'm so happy to be back with you again, to be a voice for the voiceless. And today I would like to share with you something very peculiar which came up in the Delhi High Court about an officer in the Indian Army by the name Samuel Kamelesan. Before I start, I would like you to like, share, and subscribe to my channel so that we all together can be a voice for the voiceless. Dear friends, as I would like to go further into this matter which came up before the divisional bench of the Delhi High Court, an officer by the name Samuel Kamelesan was commissioned in the Indian Army in March 2017. And as he served, he was doing his service, but then he also had to do this religious parade where he found himself to be very uncomfortable, and he did not participate despite his seniors counseling him. And due to this, he was terminated from service. And this matter was taken up before the Honorable Court, and the Delhi High Court, the divisional bench, heard this matter, and finally they upheld the termination of this officer, and also that his pension and other dues like gratuity was not being given to him. Dear friends, this officer from the Indian Army, in his plea to the court, Honorable Court, said that there was no Sarva Dharam Sthal where he was working and where he had to do this religious parade. And he requested for something like this where people of all religion could worship. But then there was only a mandir and a gurudwara where he had to go into the inner sanctum, where he found it difficult. And that is the reason he used to stay out, because it affected his religious belief. So dear friends, due to this particular religious belief, this officer did not participate, and hence he was terminated from service, and the Delhi High Court upheld the termination of this officer. Dear friends, our army serving the people of our country, a salute to the soldiers, to the officers, and all those people who are out over there. But then it really pains when you hear that such a thing has happened to an officer from the Indian Army. And I'm just thinking about the trauma that this officer must have gone through. As our Constitution, through Article 25, says that we have got a freedom of conscience to practice and propagate our religion. And I'm sure that through this freedom which this officer Samuel Kamelesan had, he felt that he cannot be forced because it affects his conscience, that his religious practice and belief and faith is not being practiced. But then the Honorable Court had come up with the order saying that our armed forces comprises of personnel of all religions, castes, creed, regions and faith, whose sole motto is to safeguard the country from external aggression, and therefore they are united by the uniform rather than divided by the religion, caste or region. This is the observation and what the court said. But one particular thing which comes up in this particular order is armed forces comprises of all personnel of all religions, castes, creeds. So when you see this order itself, there are people of all religions, and India is a secular country where we can practice our religion. As I mentioned about Article 25. And when such a thing happens, it's very sad that it appears that the Delhi High Court has erred in its order in upholding the termination of this Indian Army officer, Samuel Kamelesan. The Honorable Court could have been sensitive to the religious belief and practice of this officer. This is my personal observation, as this order has already come and this officer is already terminated from service. Yes, the court itself is saying that the personnel in the Indian Army are from all religion, caste, creed, and from all regions. So when these officers are from different religion, can you have just some particular religious belief to be practiced? Don't you feel there is some injustice being done? There is no freedom of conscience to practice your faith and practice. And if you see that, okay, if this officer was not Samuel Kamelesan but someone else, XYZ, who was from a different religion, and if he was asked to participate in the religious belief of some other religion, was there no force? And would this order be the same order? Is this not injustice which is being done to Samuel Kamelesan? I would have been happy if this termination of this officer would have been for some other matter, for indiscipline, corruption, or some other things of insubordination. But this is something about his religious faith and practice and belief. Definitely, he was participating in all other matters of the army. But when it came to his religious faith and practice, and when he was forced into that, he said, no, I cannot be a part of it. And the court should have been sensitive to this officer. Because tomorrow, it's not only about Samuel Kamelesan. What if some other officer would come up with this matter? How would the court look into it? But definitely, we believe in our constitution that there is remedies. And this is not the end of the road. And definitely, according to Article 32 of the Indian Constitution, which is the heart and soul, Samuel Kamelesan can move the Honorable Supreme Court. And I'm sure that the Supreme Court would be sensitive in looking into this matter with a broader and bigger sensitivity of all that Samuel Kamelesan has mentioned in his petition. And definitely, we would never want such a situation to happen, because the whole morale of the Indian Army is lowered when such matters come up in the court. Because definitely, as mentioned by the Honorable Court, there are soldiers and officers and personnels of different religions, faith, practice, creed, region, and we all are a part of that one India, and we don't want it to be broken. And when one person goes through such a situation, definitely we do not want it to affect in any way. And we want our army to be very strong, because our India, we want our India to be the best, and it can happen only when God's grace and God's hand is there and God protecting our Indian army. So our prayers for our Indian army, for all our soldiers or our officers who are serving, when we are safe in our homes, they are out over there. So a due respect, but then once again, injustice should not be done to this officer, Samuel Kamelesan, because he did not go out and do something which was wrong. He felt that his belief and practice of religion, which is enshrined in Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, which is also for the Indian Army, if I'm not wrong. But then he felt injustice was done to him, because he was terminated, dismissed from the service, because he appealed before the court so that he could be reinstated and so that he could again serve the Indian Army. And that was his commitment. He wanted to serve, he wanted to be reinstated in the Indian Army. So the court should have been sensitive. And my personal opinion is the Honorable Delhi Court has erred in his order. And definitely the Supreme Court is always there to get a remedy for Samuel Kamelesan. And also, as the court has been very, very open and sensitive when the matter is placed before them. So let us pray for our Indian Army and for all the officers, for all the soldiers, and God's covering and protection over our army. Thank you, friends. God bless you, and shalom.